walking alone streets.
What is up, guys? Orbital-Pilot back here once again in the world of Warthunder. This time we're taking the sky in the F84. This is more specifically the American variant and not the new G variant. More on that in a while, though. So, actually, this plane kind of came up at an awkward time. I wasn't actually planning to fly it, but instead of flying out the Hornet 229. And that's when I kind of realized this plane is a little bit of a cancer, it seems, in the 7.0 battle rating. I have no idea why this plane is at 7.0. This plane is very comparable, in my opinion, to something like the F80, maybe a little bit worse. But against P80s and stuff, understandably so, the P80 is a 7.0 against things like the Hornet 229. But with the F80 being at literally an 8.0 battle rating, and this plane having a max speed of 600 miles an hour, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why this plane's at 7.0. So Arado takes it to the sky, and for some weird reason decides to have a turn fight. I don't know why, but it was an interesting choice. So going back down, I'm going to chase him down. So going at a speed of around 500 miles an hour, I don't really understand what he's doing with 4 engines. The plane is actually fairly fast. It has a lot of horsepower, of course, but pulling that many Gs, I have no idea what happens. Now, luckily enough, I do run into him, but for some odd reason, because I'm in an American plane, it just cuts his plane in half instead of hurting my plane. So, luckily enough, American bias. And so up ahead we have 2 planes, actually, a Hornet 229 and an ME-262, along with an F84G. Now that's what I actually wanted to talk about in this video. The F84 was already cancer enough, and I feel like instead of just up-tiering it to something maybe like 7.3 or 8.0, something a little bit more comparable, they just gave the Access team another F84. So now you have F84s fighting F84s, and those F84s are in games with procs for some odd reason. So you have like an 8-year difference in between planes, and so you just basically have a slaughter of really fast jets fighting other really fast jets, but neither of them really winning because they're the exact same plane. Now, of course, the F84G does have a little bit of difference. It is really good ground attacking, but I mean, most people are not really going to use it as that. So taking up, what you're seeing is me shooting M3 machine guns for the first time in probably a solid 7 months. The last thing I flew with M3s was actually probably this plane. So my aim is just god-awful. So if you're wondering why, that's also the reason. Also, the Wi-Fi here is not really the best at all times, so if it seems a little bit jumpy here, I think my ping went up a little bit. So shooting F84s with M3 machine guns is not something I personally enjoy, but because of Gaijin logic, that is what we are forced to do when flying this plane. So finally put enough bullets through his fuselage to kill him. I actually think I killed the pilot, so that is the only nice thing with these guns. With a bunch of nose-mounted M3 machine guns, pilot sniping is something that's done relatively easy, and you can just pump out hundreds and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. So going head-on with this plane is not actually a terrible idea, just because of the wall of lead you can put up. You're bound to hit them, and if something has an open cockpit like the Hornet 229, I mean, going heads up in a Hornet 229, I don't know why you ever would, considering you're in a wood plane with twin 30mm. But against something like this with a ton of machine guns, they're just gonna rip you apart. So going back to the F84G variant, the problem this causes in the matchmaker is that instead of, for instance, when you fly out an American plane, you go out and you expect to fight the Germans. Well, the Germans are obviously a different flight style completely, actually. The Hortons are quick, but they do turn really well. The ME-262 is heavy and not as fast as the F84, and of course it has 4 30mm cannons, so an amazing head-on machine. You go in expecting to fight these planes, and instead you're greeted to F84s. Now you may say, well, actually the Germans fighting F84s is not really fair either, considering these are 1945 planes fighting Korean War jets, and I completely agree. However, the correct thing to do was not to give the Germans, and really the Axis teams, F-84s. Because now you have a slight problem where the people that, of course, pay for these things, or already have them unlocked, you basically have two countries, or actually two different countries fighting each other with the exact same playstyle. And although you may think, well, it will come down to pilot skill, it's extremely disorienting trying to fight a country that you expect to fight one way, and instead having to fight yourself also. You can't really do both. Obviously, the F-84 is faster than stuff like the Warren 229 and the Me-262 and stuff. You know, all German jets are basically going to lose in a speed contest against a Korean War jet. Obviously, hopefully. Now, the Arado 234 is actually shockingly fast, especially the dual-engine one, or the quad-engine one, I guess. But even it will fall short to a 600-mile-an-hour jet. Now, the 600 miles an hour is not really that fast for a jet, but when you're going up against things like this, it is pretty much light speed. So, really, it throws a bone in the matchmaker so incredibly bad. Now, stuff like the P-80 and stuff, that's really not as bad. The P-80, of course, only has M250 caliber machine guns, which, although you may say, are fairly decent. The problem is fighting with M2 machine guns on a plane that averages around 500 to 560 miles an hour. You basically have to lead insanely far. The M2s simply do not have enough velocity in their guns to actually keep up with the speed at which you are fighting. Now, of course, once you move up to the F-84 or the F-80C, which, by the way, is at 8.0, you're greeted with M3s. And although M3s are also 12.7 millimeters, they have an incredibly fast fire rate and velocity. So leading kind of becomes much easier, and you can also put up tons and tons of ammunition. So, speaking of ammunition, I only have 177 rounds left. I'm chasing an Arado 234, which is going to be faster than me at the moment. I didn't keep up my energy almost at all. So the problem is there's no way I'm going to be taking down an Arado with 177 rounds of machine gun ammunition. Now, if these were something like Hispanos or, you know, God forbid, the F2 guns, it would be much different. But simply speaking, this really does not have the firepower to take down that big of a plane with only those rounds. So instead, he decides to go into a dogfight, which is a terrible idea for both of us. Actually, for him, it's really not that bad of an idea, I guess. He really doesn't have anything to lose. But it is probably the worst fighting style you can do in an F-84. When you're faster than everything, other than the F-84s on the other team now, basically just stick to your speed. There's no reason you should ever be turn fighting. Now, if this plane would move up to 8.0 and face things that it should be facing, it would be a little bit different of a fighting style. So put some more rounds into his right wing. Like I said before, there's just not much I can do. So now I have an option. I have an Arado 234 on my tail. I will outrun him with quite a bit of ease. There's actually two things I can do. I can go ahead and follow him and make sure he doesn't get away, and you know, keep him around for my teammates. The problem is I don't really think any of my teammates are going to be catching this guy anytime soon. The other option I have is I could ram him. Actually, I guess I have three. Or the third, which I'm going to do, is go back to base. Now, if this was the last guy on the team, I'm not going to lie, I may have chose the ramming option if he was extending out the game, which he's not, so I probably wouldn't do that. Or I would stick by him and keep him highlighted for my teammates. But with only really a P-80, a Spitfire, and one other guy, I don't know what he's in, maybe an attacker, none of those planes are gonna catch this guy. So other than me, or other than this Arado, I am basically the fastest plane in this match. Now, I am faster than the Arado, but not by much. So after going and landing, I am going to go straight towards their base. Now, it's not actually a bad tactic to do, especially this late in the game. And it's really not a bad tactic to do early in the game when you first spawn in. If you're one of the first people to spawn in, and this is going to sound terrible, but until they fix the BR, which really needs to be done, you're going to find quite a bit of F-84s just rushing straight in, because by the time they reach the Germans, and whether they're climbing or going straight, the F-84 will probably be, well actually it won't probably be, it will be at 600 miles an hour, and it will be untouchable as long as the F-84 pilot is fairly competent, which sadly enough, not a lot of them are. A lot of them go straight into a turn fight, which I don't really understand, but Americans and their logic are not always the best couple. So, going right in, actually this is one of the most dangerous maps to be around at the base, so I'm not going to go all the way to the base. It has an incredible amount of AAA cannons. And not only are they just AAA, I'm fairly certain they're laser-guided rockets too. So, the AAA here is extremely toxic, but that's something for a different video. I do think something needs to be done a little bit. Of course, it may be a balancing feature, maybe a safety feature, but people that hang out above their AAA base are the worst types of people. Sadly enough, and they're not super uncommon. Luckily enough, these people are not going to do that, so I'm instead going to turn away a little bit and approach it at a little bit of a different angle. I want to be at quite a high speed when I do get there. So 540 miles an hour, that's fairly decent. Nothing is going to be going that fast, especially now. I think they only have an Orbital and one other plane left. Now that is annoying. That was yeah, that is embarrassing actually. That was an AI plane. I have no idea where he came from. I'm not sure if I just wasn't looking, but now I have a severely crit plane. My right wing is pretty much totally trashed. My right aileron is pretty much trashed. So really now I have two options. One of the guys kind of hiding. One of them's going to go heads up with me. I'm going to take the heads up because I don't feel like going all the way back to base, landing, and looking for this guy for the next 20 minutes. So honestly, this is something I do recommend doing, just because getting in and out of games is really, really what's going to get you that RP, and really, really get you the silver lines. So I see the Orbital-234 on the airfield. He will spawn in the air, I believe. So I'm going to go down a little bit and pull the heads up. Now, I'm not actually sure if it's the Orbital that spawns in the air. Okay, it is, luckily enough. So after going heads up with him, I am going to end the video there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.